Welcome everyone to this new episode of Game On, a series of conversations started by G2G.news, where we aim to have stakeholders from various fields in the gaming industry and have a candid and engaging dialogue with them. Today we have with us Mr. Deepak Gullapalli, CEO of Head Digital Works, which runs online rummy, fantasy sports, and other sports content platforms. Deepak is probably the first person, so to speak, in the RMG industry, in the real money gaming industry. The first person who actually pioneered online rummy and real money games in India way back in 2006, I believe. So 15 years. So it will be great to have a dialogue today with one of the pioneers of online gaming in India. Welcome, Deepak, and it's great to have you on Game On.
Thank you, Jai. I'm glad to spend some time. I've known you for at least 10 to 12 years, I guess, since your college days. And as a lawyer, you have contributed a lot to the industry and with various advices to us and different companies. And you've been very active in the industry. And you've seen the evolution of the real money skill gaming industry along with us. And it's a long association and appreciate and happy that we're having this quick casual chat.
As a pioneer of the online gaming industry, can you tell us how you started Ace2three way back in 2006 and your journey since then?
This whole story, it's been a super exciting journey so far. Also a roller coaster ride, you know how things were. But when I started, this was basically, I was studying in London and this thought, while we were a bunch of friends playing rummy offline, after college hours, we used to play a lot of rummy in the house. So that's when I kind of realized that you could. There was one guy who was always playing solitaire on the computer. If you remember those days, solitaire used to be a popular game on Microsoft Windows.
Yeah.
And he wasn't interested in playing rummy, so that's when the thought came: why not rummy on the computer? And I came back from London and started it, with a very small setup, couple of rented computers. The initial plan was actually to not the real money or multi-gaming, but more of, building a rummy game where you could play against a computer. In those days, we had these CD-ROMs that people used to buy a PC and play. So the initial business plan was to build a game, put it on CD-ROMs and start selling them. So the real money or multiplayer games thoughts wasn't there initially, but over time when we started building the game, it was purely a desktop, Java applet based game. When we started building it, we realized that rummy is more interesting when you play with live players and not a computer. And then we did a two-player game, two-player table, and then it evolved into a multiplayer game. For about 2 years from 2006, I still remember 2006 December to about 2009, we operated a completely play for fun portal where people could just play rummy for fun with some kind of coins. We used to incentivize winners with free gifts and etc. and stuff. Then coming to 2009, we had obtained a legal opinion from one of the top law firms saying how this business can be operated for real money legally in this country, because there are various Supreme Court judgments. And then we launched in 2009, and from there on, things started rocking, as you know. That's how initially we started.
Can you tell us a little bit about Head Digital Works and the games or products in its portfolio that are there?
So Head Digital Works is our group company, is the parent company which owns and operates Ace2three.com, which is an online rummy business. Other than Ace2three, in 2017, we also acquired a fantasy startup. We incubated the company, and then we now own 100% of the business. It's called FanFight, which is a pure fantasy sports platform. Apart from fantasy sports, we also have a social gaming business under the Witty Games arm, purely social gaming, no real money gaming. And we also acquired and bought the domain cricket.com because
Right.
we saw a huge opportunity in the cricket content space in India, how content is delivered, and could also couple it with our fantasy sports business. So, and when we launched that around 2019, yeah, these are the four portfolios that we have, and we are in the process of launching new games as well.
So if you can share some numbers in terms of the number of users across each of these verticals or the revenue split and etc. For our viewers, that would be helpful.
We are predominantly a Rummy business, and
Right.
most of our customers today are Rummy users, though we have significant large user base on our fantasy platform. But compared to rest of the industry, players, we're not so big on fantasy, but we are very small. Having said that, we have a strong unit economics both on our fantasy and Rummy business, and there is a bit of cross sell also happening there. Number of users, I really don't. I'm not top of the actual numbers, but over the last 2 years, we've seen the numbers grow, significantly. And also recent changes in regulations, kind of it is a little bit. I'm sure it hit everybody in the industry as well. We probably clock in about 250,000 active users a week, I would say.
And so you have been around, and when I tell you, sometimes you feel a little upset that you are making me feel old. That you are the earliest person to get into this business. But if I ask you in the 15 years, how have you seen this entire industry evolve from the CD-ROM games which you were talking about, and now everything is on the mobile with super fast internet? How do you see the journey in the last 15 years?
No, I think overall, as in general, right, mobile phones have changed how we all live our lives today.
Right.
And we've seen that transition from a desktop to mobile phone, I think, around the 2013, 14, 15 time. And we've seen everything in the gaming industry, how it kind of matured into a very large industry. At least for the first 5-6 years, there were very few operators, but at the same time, there were really hard, tough challenges to run this business. Convincing banks to payment gateways to advertisers, advertising networks, publishers, media, government, and there was at least a large perceptional negative value to the industry as such. But I have at least seen that from my first 5 years, second 5 years to the last 5 years, there has been a significant change in how people look at us as a business, as an industry. I still remember 10 years back, if I met a friend and he asked me, "What do you do?" I said, "I run an online rummy business." And the first question is to come, is it legal? Right? But today, I think that kind of clarified that, it is legal, though some states have banned it. But at least it kind of, strengthened our position that this is a legal business across the country, except in few states, as per the old laws. And the perception also changed, in terms of it's not so negative to run a business like this or even for people to play on such websites.
Right.
And thanks to a lot of peers in the industry and how the rest of the companies have evolved in terms of, helping the industry grow. And today, as we speak, it's a very, very large, I'm sure, I may not be accurate, but it's a multi-billion-dollar industry today,
Yeah.
which 10, 12 years back was a very small startup kind of a business. I'm glad that I'm part of this business. I should say that, it's not, it's the companies and it's the people who started this various businesses in the industry that made a difference. It's just not one person. It's across all the operators today. And we work very closely with the rest of the operators as well, as you know.
Yeah.
In helping the industry grow.
So one of the things which I have seen changing over the years is and the introduction of newer games, newer formats, and multi-gaming platforms. Is that something? How do you see the multi-gaming platform route and doing that yourself?
I think Rummy has kind of opened the doors for multiple games.
Yeah.
Rummy kind of showed the path to to various games in terms of revenue generation. See, all these games existed even before.
Yeah.
Not that they haven't. Gaming, the larger gaming industry is pretty big globally and in India, and people play all these games. That we all know that earlier monetization was a big challenge. I think the skill gaming, real money skill gaming industry today, I think Rummy showed the path to how do we maximize monetization and maximize revenues, and followed by fantasy and courts recognizing fantasy as a game of skill, and followed by these new games that are coming. I'm sure you know the definition of a game of skill is what matters, it's hard to define what game is a game of skill and what is not, unless there is a strong judicial judgment that defines this is a game of skill. And fortunately, Rummy, at least, as you know, has a history, way back 50 years history for being game of skill, and recently fantasy. And how I see this evolve is, at least there are clear games of skill, like nobody can say chess or caroms is a game of chance, right? But there could be some games that could be debatable that were between the game of skill, and ultimately either the governments or the judiciary will have to examine those games and define what are games of skill and what are not.
Right now, I think there is a very fine line, and people are just pushing that boundary. Few people are doing that Ludo. I don't know what else will come, but many games are being pushed as games of skill, which probably they may or may not be. So I think, and how to police them, how to check them is another question. But I think this is one of the issues that is likely to arise.
I think the solution to that is to have a regulation in place. If somebody is looking at these games, examining these games, both from a statistical view and from a legal view, and define what, and regulation is the need of the hour. I think regulation, and in order to in order to monitor what games are played, etc. and stuff. See, the other point is, a game could be, I could consider one game as a game of skill, and you could consider that as a game of chance.
Yeah.
It's how you look at it and how you play it. And it is not just about the game in itself. It's about how you are, putting money on that game also matters, right? In what form are you putting? What are you gaining out of it? How do you win money from the game itself? Is it through somebody else, playing it, or is it computer? So there are various parameters that you need to consider whether it comes under a game of skill or not. And yeah, you're right. People are pushing various games, saying they are games of skill too. But ultimately, there needs to be a regulation. There needs to be a regulatory body which should define what are games of skill and what are, and it has to be well accepted by the governments and the judiciary as well.
Absolutely. So coming on to the regulatory bit also, I was going to focus on that a little bit. As you spoke about also, and we all know that certain states in the last year have gone ahead and passed laws banning all forms of games played for money. Andhra and Tamil Nadu, and Kerala doing something very specific on online rummy. And Telangana, of course, it's been there since the last 4 years. And of course, all these matters are in respective high courts. So it would not be proper to comment too much on the court cases that are going on, being sub judice. But how do you see this playing out in terms of regulation at the state level? If states keep on going ahead and banning these things, how does it impact the business, and does it kind of motivate other states to do the same thing?
See, the first part of the question, we are part of the litigations, and
Yes.
I would not comment on the litigation part. The bans have happened. Okay, whatever has happened, and we know we are in litigation trying to challenge and say that these are businesses that cannot be prohibited completely, but regulated in some form of the other.
Right.
So there could, whatever the courts rule, obviously we'll have to stick to that, and we're waiting for the cases to complete. To your second point, yes, there is a this has a big negative impact on the industry as such. And we've seen that it was only one state 4 years back. Today we are talking about 3 to 4 states. We could have two more states come in and do the same. But however, there is a strong representations that we have made through the industry federation, educating governments on what our industry is, what is this all about, and how a complete ban or a prohibition is not the right way, because we've also seen a complete prohibition of this industry has led to illegal operators. I'm sure we all read in the newspapers and about the big Chinese gaming scam, that kind of illegal operators from outside the country coming and operating in such states, because there is no policing, there's no enforcement of such websites, and money is going out of the country and no taxes being paid. So this is what happens globally. Seen that a complete ban is not good, and this is what we as federations we continue to try to educate governments, and hopefully there will be some government who will come and say, okay, we'll regulate it and license it.
And I think also, while I'm totally with you that banning is no solution, I'm not a great fan of bans. It just aggravates the problem, as you said, and the money just goes underground instead of being in the system. But also there is talk of self-regulation by industry bodies. And I'm not a great fan of self-regulation per se, especially in India, because as you know, there is no punitive powers, nobody to police it. Some federation can say something, but some operator, and it has happened in the industry also, that they'll say, who are you? We don't want to listen to you. So do you think self-regulation is the way forward, or government should actually come out and form regulations and or some sort of policing powers at least to regulate it?
See, self-regulation, as you said, can only help to an extent.
Yeah.
Right? What would a self-regulation? Self-regulation can only tell me I am only telling what is right for me. There's no third part. And it's very hard to control that and get everybody on the same page in a self-regulation in this thing. So you could have even one bad operator is good enough to mess up the industry reputation, right?
Yeah.
So and it's going to be very, very difficult to get every operator into the self-regulation framework, and that's the biggest challenge. But once the government has a regulation in place, everybody will have to comply with the rules framed, etc. and stuff, and it's very easy to enforce it. See, self-regulation helps as long as it is followed, but it's very difficult to enforce it on everybody.
Yeah, I think in India, historically, in any sector, in self-regulation, some operators or the other will say, we don't want to follow this. So unless there is government blessing to some extent, it's difficult. According to me, that's my view.
Jai, it's not just in India. Globally, it's the same, right? It doesn't work. And in fact, if you look at the history of UK, Gaming Commission, etc., where it all started is a self-regulation. Yeah. And that kind of led to a central regulation, etc. and stuff. So it's a good start, right? Somebody needs to start. Somebody needs to define what are good practices for the industry, what are good for players, player protection. How do we implement all of this? And then we put everything in the platter and then hand it over and say, take it forward from there. So the idea of self-regulation is not just to ensure, we are operating safely, but it's to make sure players have the utmost security. And then we lay the strong foundations for if any government, any state government would want to regulate, they can just use what we have built over the years.
So moving on to a bit on the investments, as you know, there have been massive investments in this space in the last 2-3 years. I mean, the numbers predicted have always been surpassed, I would say, in terms of raising fund by various companies. And I think as far as you are concerned, also in 2017, ClearWest acquired majority stake in Head Digital Works. So wanted to know your fundraising journey and also your plans in terms of any future fundraising or going public.
As you said, we were the first operators or first company to come in. I think we were also the first company to raise a venture capital funding way back in 2009, 2010. And that kind of opened doors for a lot of VC funds and private equity funds to look at this as an industry and started investing in various businesses, and which I think has played a very important role in helping the industry grow and mature, because there's recognition from private investors and funds and etc. who very reputed funds, very large funds have invested in this industry. That kind of recognizes, helps us build a strong industry. And last 3-4 years, we've seen very large deals happen in the industry, and I'm happy about the kind of investments that are coming. Only then the industry will grow and mature, right? And for as specific to Ace2three and Head Digital Works is 2017. This was probably one of the first all secondary transactions that happened in the industry as well, and some of our old investors had a very nice, large, good exit. Our future plans from an investment standpoint, as we speak today, we continue to invest into our business and grow, and not really looking at external investments as such or anything. But going public is probably somebody has to open the doors there, and how this industry will be accepted by public markets is something that I personally still think the industry may not be ready yet, Jai. But it'll get there in maybe another 2 years. We'll probably get there.
Some people are saying it may not be acceptable in India, but there could be a different route to go public from another international market.
Correct. That depends on company to company and what the investors or the founders want from going public, etc. Could be international listing, could be a route, but I'm a strong believer in my country and India.
So want to wrap this up by asking a last question on Head Digital Works in terms of what's your future plan? Is it going international in some way, inorganic route, or how do you see Head Digital Works evolving forward in the next few years?
See, we are very focused on what we are doing in terms of our core business. We continue to grow our core business. While we continue to grow, we are also looking at partnerships and inorganic growth as well. And we want to expand into other games and other geographies as well. We've just started work on going international too. And as a company, we're very strong in our unit economics, and we have a very, very strong team. We want to leverage that and start looking at growth. We have been growing, but our goal is to see how do we establish HDW as one of the leading gaming operators in India and globally as well. Yeah, to answer your question, we have plans for new games, and we do have plans for going international.
So you see Head Digital Works as a pure play gaming company, or also into sports content and media?
Yeah, we are already into sports content through our cricket.com business, and we are taking we are building. Cricket.com is fairly a new product. It's just been 2 years in the business, and last 2 years, due to the COVID situation, the number of cricket matches, there's been 2 IPLs that were cancelled, pushed, etc. and stuff. There's not been much movement there. But having said that, we are working on a aggressive plan for cricket.com as well, and purely from a cricket content standpoint, and taking it global and not just India.
Thank you very much, Deepak, for this engaging conversation and for your time. Those who like this conversation, please hit the subscribe button and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and do follow our social media pages also, which is given on the description to the video. And we'll be back with another episode next week. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Jai.